Everyone, in this short little video, I'm going to be talking about some memorable horror movie characters that a lot of people are familiar with. First one being Michael Myers, who's from the Halloween franchise. Now, Myers is from the fictional town of Haddonfield, and as a young child, he murdered his older sister. Nobody knows what happened, nobody knows why he did it, but on Halloween night, Michael murdered his older sister, and upon returning home, his parents discovered what he had done. Now, that sent him to a psychiatric hospital where he stayed for many years, and as an adult, he returned to his hometown on Halloween and begins a completely new murder spree. And fun fact, it's actually a William Shatner mask that Myers is wearing. There wasn't a whole lot in the budget, if I remember correctly, so they just grabbed a William Shatner mask that was from a store, did a few things to it to make it look the way that it does. So, yeah, who knew Captain Kirk could be terrifying? Now, the second most notable character is Freddy Krueger. He is from the Nightmare on Elm Street franchise. Freddy was a child murderer who was killed by the parents after being acquitted of what had happened or let go from prison. The way he kills his victims is that he returns in the dreams of the children to murder them. Now, they're all from Elm Street, hence the name. And an interesting fact about Freddy is that his mother was actually a nun and worked at a mental hospital prior to Freddy being born. She was actually locked in a room with a lot of patients over a holiday, and nobody knew that she was there until later. Jason Voorhees is the third most recognizable name. He's from the Friday the 13th franchise, and as a child, he drowned at Camp Crystal Lake due to neglectful counselors. That caused his mother, who was working at the camp, to go on a murder spree. Voorhees actually returns from the grave to murder anyone who stays at Camp Crystal Lake. It's one of those supernatural killer kind of things where if they kill him, he ends up coming back, which is why there's so many movies. And an interesting fact that I think a lot of people tend to forget about is that Jason's mother, Pamela, is actually the killer in the first movie. Jason doesn't appear until the end of the movie, coming out of a lake attacking the final girl. Next in the list is Leatherface, who's from the Texas Chainsaw Massacre franchise. His name's not actually known or said in the movie. This is just what Leatherface is just what he's known as with audiences and fans. He lives with his family, who are known for murder, like so many others in the horror genre. The mask that he wears is actually made out of human skin, so he takes pieces from his victims and just sews it together. He's also one of the silent killers in the horror genre. He never really speaks beyond grunts and a few sounds here and there. Fun fact, actually, he was inspired by real-life serial killer Ed Gein, or Gein. I've never figured out how to pronounce it. But Gein actually is known for making bodysuits out of human skin, which is what inspired Leatherface. The next one is Regan. Now, this little girl is the center focus of the movie The Exorcist. She played with a Ouija board and became possessed by a demon, which sets off the whole chain of events for the movie The Exorcist. And interestingly enough, when the movie premiered, there were actually reports of audience members fainting or feeling nauseous upon seeing the film. It's known as one of the scariest movies ever made, and kind of still holds up to that. Next is Ghostface, who is the killer in the Scream franchise. This is a killer who terrorizes a young woman and her friends. I know that sounds kind of general and could go for anything, but this one's actually different in the fact that this is never the same person. Each movie shows a different person behind the mask. It's never the same, it's always someone else. And the main protagonist, Sidney Prescott, actually has connections to each of the killers because of her mother. And finally, rounding this up, is Chucky, the murderous doll from the Child's Play franchise. Chucky is actually the spirit, no, the soul, soul of a murderer who transferred said soul to a doll after a shootout with police who were in pursuit of him. Originally, he tries to possess a young boy named Andy, but then later in the movies, as the franchise progresses, he just goes for whoever he can find. And interestingly enough, his real name, Charles Lee Ray, is actually a combination of the names of 3 known murderers. Cult leader, Charles Manson, Lee Harvey Oswald, who is the one who assassinated JFK, and James Earl Ray, who is responsible for the assassination of Martin Luther King.